Hi, today we're doing Keeping Up with Technology, and this is all about how to stay informed and to be a green computer user. There's always a question about this in the final exams in some form or other. And this is Grade 12 IBIT Module 3.1. So it is important to stay informed and to be very up to date with the latest computer trends. Remember that computers are evolving and changing all the time, and there will always be some questions in your final exam that stretch you further than what you've just learned in class or from your books. So it's very important to stay informed, and there are a whole lot of sites that you can register. You can go to create an RSS feed there and keep reading. Read, and read some more. Find some blogs that you're interested in and learn. Now, on the side of staying green when you're using your computer, there are two big areas that ICT affects. And the one is waste, and the other one is power. So we all like to blame everybody else and say, no, it's not me. I don't consume that much. But we actually do all consume quite a lot of ICT products. So e-waste is all the old computers, monitors, broken hard drives, your old cell phones, TVs, gaming devices, outdated computers, and batteries. And there is a lot. So we keep on upgrading and changing, and you know that you've already maybe had a few cell phones in your lifetime. So how old are you? How many cell phones or computers or gaming devices or other electronics have you already had in your lifetime? And what happens to the devices you no longer want or use? And why is throwing them away in the rubbish bin so bad? Here I've got a few pictures of old computer parts. So it's bad because there are all sorts of products that are inside these devices that we throw away. They will end up on the rubbish heap, and eventually they'll filter down into the soil, and they could come back in the food that you eat and poison you in some way or other. So electronic devices contain lead, mercury, arsenic, and these are all poisons. They're toxic. A lot of the stuff they contain is carcinogenic. And so you think, yes, but I'm putting it in my dustbin. It's going to land up on a rubbish heap somewhere on a remote place far from the city. It's not going to affect anybody. Yes, it does. What happens is these products eventually rust, and all of the stuff that they contain, the poison they contain, seeps down into the soil when it rains. The rain carries it away down to the rivers. The rivers then are used to water the crops, and you might be eating some chips made from potatoes that were watered with something that you threw away. Okay, so it can come back and harm you in some way. That's why it's important to recycle. And when you recycle, there are some people that specialize in taking out all of the useful elements and materials inside these devices, and they can then resell it, and it can get reused to make something new, something useful for somebody else. In many countries, it's actually illegal to throw e-waste in the rubbish bin, and you will get a fine if you do that. In South Africa, it's not. But there are a lot of places where you can go to recycle, and there are even companies who will come and fetch your old computer from you because it's valuable. There's stuff inside that they can sell again. So the other environmental issue is that computers use electricity, and most electricity comes from fossil fuels, and then when you have to burn fossil fuels to make electricity, you're increasing global warming. Remember that if you've got a normal desktop, it uses about 100 to 150 watts when it's left on. A laptop uses far less, about 30 to 50 watts. But when we have a lot of computers all plugged in, like maybe the ones in your classroom, if you're still at school, it's a lot of power that's being used. And billions of computers all over the world means a real huge amount of usage of power. And one example is just a Google data center uses more power than the whole of Johannesburg put together. So if you're not using it, shut it down. There's also the vampire effect. I don't know if you've heard of the vampire effect. It's caused by the fact that there are little transformers inside all the devices you use. And so when a device is plugged in and the plug at the wall is on, it uses a little bit of power all the time. Some of them use less than half a watt, which is negligible, but some use between half a watt and 10 watts, and this adds up. So switch the plug off. Just a few tips. You'll often be asked to give tips like this in your exams. Switch the plug off at the wall or unplug it. Be power aware. Set your device to use less power. On the operating system, you can go to the power scheme and set it so that the computer will sleep or hibernate if you haven't used it for a while. And then the other thing we're going to talk about today is to keep your software up to date. And you know that you can, often Windows will tell you that it wants to update, or other software. It's a good idea to do it. And the reason is that it fixes errors and bugs. If there were security loopholes, that means some way that a hacker or a virus could find its way into your computer, it stops those. And it also might add new features or improvements to your existing software. There are things called patches and there are things called service packs. So a patch is just a little update that can be downloaded to fix a specific bug in your software. And most of these fix a little security problem. And a service pack is when a whole lot of corrections and new features are lumped together in one package, and you can download that and install it. And these are released at fixed intervals, that means regularly, by different software companies. A service pack is much larger than a patch because it contains a whole lot of corrections or new features. It also contains all the content since the previous service pack. Most modern software checks for updates whenever you use it and you're connected to the internet, and then it asks you if you want to install the update. Just say yes. The operating system and antivirus software can also be set to download and install updates automatically. Goodbye, that's all for today. God bless you with your exams if you're writing this week or soon, and I will see you next time.